Today, we're jumping into this incredible historical moment where worldly power, like the absolute peak of it, comes face to face with profound spiritual wisdom. And it all raises this timeless question: what is real authority anyway? So let's just get right to the heart of it. I mean, think about this. What on earth could possibly convince a king, a powerful king, to leave his whole entourage behind and literally bow at the feet of a teacher with no home and no possessions? This isn't just a history lesson. It's a story about power, wisdom, and what we decide is truly valuable.
It all starts with a king who, had everything. We're talking wealth, power, the respect of everyone around him, and yet he knew something was missing. So he set out on this journey looking for something much, much deeper.
So our story really revolves around these two giants. On one side, you've got King Bimbisāra, the ruler of the really powerful kingdom of Magadha. He's at the absolute pinnacle of worldly authority. And on the other side, the Buddha, a man who had actually given up a princely life to find a totally different kind of power. Not the power to command armies, but the power of pure insight.
And you might be wondering, how do we even know all these details? Well, this isn't just some fairy tale. The story of this incredible meeting is carefully preserved in this ancient Buddhist text. This sutra, it's our main source, and it gives us this direct window into how this whole event went down.
So the story really kicks off when rumors about the Buddha and his teachings start to reach the royal palace. Now, the king was known as a pretty wise ruler, so he was, of course, intrigued. But he didn't just send a scout or a messenger. No, the sutra tells us he decided he had to go himself, in person, and he gets his entire royal convoy ready for the trip.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just some diplomatic visit for the king. This was a huge deal. For him, this meeting was an opportunity of almost cosmic importance, a chance that just doesn't come around every day. And we know just how important he thought this was because of his own words, which were recorded in the text. He uses this really powerful metaphor, comparing a Buddha showing up in the world to the blooming of the mythical udumbara flower.
So let's just pause on that for a second. The udumbara flower, it's said to bloom only once every 3,000 years. So when the king says that, he's basically saying, this isn't a once-in-a-lifetime chance, this is a once-in-many-lifetimes chance to encounter true wisdom. It's a huge statement.
Okay, so the king making the journey is a big deal, right? But what he does when he actually gets there, well, that's where the story gets really incredible. This next part tells you everything you need to know about his mindset.
Just look at this sequence of events. It shows this profound level of respect. He doesn't roll up with all the fanfare of a king. Instead, he gets to the gate and systematically takes off every single symbol of his royal status. He gets out of his chariot, he removes his 5 insignias. We're talking his crown, his sword, the royal fan, everything. He walks up on foot, and then, as the ultimate act of respect, he bows down and touches his head to the Buddha's feet. And it's only after all of that, after he has made himself completely humble, that he even says who he is. And it's not with arrogance, it's just a simple fact. He's already shown that he gets that in this space, a totally different kind of power is at play.
And here's a fascinating little detail from the text. The king didn't actually come to just listen. The original plan was to test the Buddha. He and his ministers had all their arguments ready. They were planning to engage in this big philosophical debate. But the moment he met him, something just shifted. The need to argue just dissolved, and all he wanted to do was learn.
So he's completely won over, not by some clever argument, but just by the Buddha's presence. And at that moment, King Bimbisāra makes an offer that's going to completely change the future for the early Buddhist community.
He extends this massive invitation. He asks the Buddha and his entire following, we're talking over 1,000 monks, to stay in his capital city. And not for a day, not for a week, but for 3 full months. You have to imagine, for a community of wandering monks, this kind of offer for stable shelter and support was just unbelievable.
And this wasn't some vague promise either. The king got specific. He pledged to provide what they called the 4 requisites, all the food, clothing, shelter, and medicine that the entire community would need to just survive and focus on their spiritual practice. This act of royal patronage was absolutely crucial. It gave the Buddhist teachings a stable home base to grow from. So the king offers material support, and in return, the Buddha offers a different kind of gift, a far more lasting one, the Dharma, his teachings about the true nature of reality.
Now, the Buddha's response is just brilliant. He doesn't just launch into some dense, complicated lecture. The sutra makes a point of saying he gave a gradual teaching, which means he skillfully tailored his message perfectly for his audience.
And you can see how masterfully this teaching is structured. He starts with the basics, things everyone can relate to, like generosity and living a moral life. Then he moves on to the next step, talking about the good things that come from that, like a heavenly rebirth. It's only after he's prepared their minds that he introduces the deepest truth of his teaching, the nature of suffering and how to end it for good.
And the effect of this teaching? It was immediate and powerful. The text says that 250 of the king's court ladies, right there in that moment, had this huge spiritual breakthrough. They gained what's called the Dharma eye, a direct, life-changing insight. So the teaching didn't just impress the king, it literally awakened members of his court.
Okay, so all of this leads to the real crescendo of the story. The Buddha wraps up the whole encounter with this powerful poem that gets to the heart of what is truly supreme. First, the Buddha does something really smart. He acknowledges the king's world. He confirms the king's top spot among humans, just like the ocean is the top dog among rivers. He's showing respect for the king's reality.
And then he zooms out. He starts talking about the cosmos, right? He brings up the moon among the stars and the sun among all sources of light. He's building this huge scale of what's considered the greatest or the chief in the whole universe. And here it is, the final knockout point. After he's acknowledged all these other kinds of supremacy, royal, natural, even cosmic, he delivers the ultimate statement. He says that in all the heavens and in all the worlds, an awakened mind, a Buddha, is the one thing that is truly supreme with nothing above it.
So, this incredible story from thousands of years ago, it's not just a cool historical anecdote. It leaves us with a really powerful question for ourselves, doesn't it? If a king, a man who had everything, found something more valuable than his own crown, it forces us to look at our own lives and ask, what do I truly value most?